Welcome to Know Your Money, where we will explore our relationship with money and how the psychology of it impacts our financial decisions, as everyone thinks about money differently. In our podcast, we'll be presenting a variety of financial topics in an easy-to-understand way, which we hope will assist you with managing your money. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Know Your Money. Craig, Warren, how are you guys today?
All good, Warren. You're looking remarkably relaxed.
Still.
Amazing.
Yeah, life is good, eh?
Yeah, it's all happening and it's looking good.
Oh, thank you, Craig.
See, we've got Rob back in the studio.
I know, I'm excited for this.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, thanks very much for having me back. It's
Thank
good
you
to
for
be
coming.
back. Yeah,
Thank
all the way
you,
from
Rob.
Cape Town, Rob.
No, thank you.
So, Rob, what we thought we could do is potentially just unpack your book a little bit and do like a series in a way and go through each of the C's. So, Craig, do you know what the first C was in his book?
It's clarity. And Rob, please tell the story of your late dad and what his adventure was all those years ago.
Yeah, okay, yeah, great. Thanks, Craig. I'll do that. Yeah, I mean, I think the first C is clarity just because I think that it's the most important thing for clients to try and get is clarity about what they want from their money and, more importantly, what they want from their life. And so in the book I relate a story, as you say, Craig, about my father, which I think has a lesson about clarity. So my father was a pilot in the Second World War. He flew Wellington bombers, it's interesting about that because what I'm still staggered about is that they were actually made out of canvas and balsa wood, and they used to fly over the Alps, which is extraordinary. So it was like these structures that they used to get off the ground.
And he survived, which is amazing.
Yeah, he survived, yeah.
The whole war.
Yeah, that's right, I know, yeah. Because, usually when they went out on a sortie or whatever, at least half the planes wouldn't come back, So you were really sort of 1 in 2 chance.
Brave men.
And to that point, on one of the, he always used to say it whenever they took off was, they had a crew of 6 and they had a tail gunner, co-pilot, navigator, and then a couple of bombers or people to handle the bombs. And he used to always say to his tail gunner, who was a very nervous guy, named Smith, he'd always say to him, just before takeoff, Smithy, you can't live forever. So he had a bit of a dry sense of humor, but yeah. Anyway, on one occasion they were doing a sort of a training exercise over the Red Sea, and his plane came down and they crashed into the Red Sea, and obviously everything just imploded on impact. 3 of them survived the crash, and they were in the water together, and there was sort of debris and sort of wreckage around them, and then they realized there were also sharks in the water swimming around them. So it's a double whammy, and it was dark. It was nighttime. So
it's like a horror movie.
Yeah, it's like a horror movie. Yeah. Luckily, my father was very calm in nature, and I think that probably was his saving grace. But also, they had to make some decisions in that water, and with the sharks swimming around, obviously the decision was, well, what do you do? And the other 2 guys decided that the best thing to do was to swim and just swim away from the sharks, get away from them, because I suppose they were thinking that the sharks are interested in all this stuff in the water and there's probably fuel and all that stuff there. Anyway, they swam off and they were never seen again. My father decided that he would stay with the wreckage. He hung on to some part of the fuselage, and his theory was that he would let the current take him in whichever direction they would go. It's dark. He didn't even know where it was going to take him. But, when we were growing up, he would always, when we were in the sea, he would always drum it into us, If you get taken by a rip, you let the rip take, you let the current take, you don't ever swim against the current. So he was always very strong on that the sea is much stronger than you are. And that's a fundamental principle, And so he made the decision to hang on. And obviously the fact that we're telling the story is that he ended up in the I think he was in the water for about 10 hours and then got washed up onto the sort of Arabian coast, North Africa, and actually got picked up by some Arabian soldiers who were there because they were searching because they had heard that there had been a crash. And he got put onto a camel. Most people, a camel ride is a bucket list item. For him, it was a sort of a necessity. they took him off, I think it was a 2-day camel ride to a hospital, and then they, but he fortunately wasn't too badly injured. He sort of recovered there and then went back into action. But why do I relate that story in this section on clarity in the book is because I think it parallels the world that you as financial planners live in and we as clients live in, and that is that the future is always uncertain. So when my dad and his 2 crewmen made those decisions, they were made in very uncertain circumstances. The water's murky, it's dark, you don't know what's going to happen. And we are always having to do that. We always have to make decisions with uncertainty because nobody can predict the future. And so I think that what's important with respect to financial planning is what do we need clarity about? And I think one of the things, for example, is sort of principles and what are the clear principles that we have around what we want to do with our life and our money, or values is another word you could use. And then Craig in a previous podcast, you shared that your wife quite likes going out for a cup of coffee in the morning. And that reflects a value which I really respect because I do the same thing. It is a cost. I do share in the book that Warren Buffett goes every morning to McDonald's for his breakfast and
nutritious breakfast at McDonald's.
And it's quite funny because I think what happens is a bit like your envelope story, Bronwyn, because his wife, he never knows every morning what he's going to be able to afford to buy at McDonald's because his wife gives him, I think, either $2.20 or $2.70 in cash in his hand.
Oh, my word.
And depending on how much he gets determines what he can buy. But I think he always buys like the same burger or whatever it is. But I think it depends whether you can get a coffee or a Coke or whatever. But anyway, he gets allocated his breakfast allowance. But yeah,
so that's how they made all the money.
Exactly. No. He's very frugal.
I need to try that with my wife.
This is your coffee allowance for the week.
For just do daily.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you probably do know the sort of the anecdotes about how frugal he is. The fact that he sort of
he drives an old car,
lives in the same house for 40, 50 years, longer now. But so I think the point of the first pillar, what I call the 7 pillars of financial health, I think the first pillar is clarity, that we need to try and get clarity, but all the other pillars in the book support that, so you can't get clarity, without, for example, the other 6 C's, which maybe we'll talk about at another stage. But having clarity is key, but it's not just clarity about what to do with your money, it's clarity about what to do with your life. And I think that's where your jobs as financial planners is very challenging, because to help somebody work out what they want from life is tough. But I think that's really where the real value is in the work that you do. But you could comment on that.
Hi everyone. If you would like to get a copy of Rob's book, The 7 Pillars of Financial Health, we have shared a link in the bio with the web address as well as a discount code you can use. The book retails for 375 Rand excluding delivery, and with this promo code you will pay 370, which includes delivery. Alternatively, you can find the book at exclusive books or other bookstores. We would like to thank you for listening, and please remember to like, subscribe, and share the podcast so that we can bring on more exciting guests like Rob to help you with knowing yourself and knowing your money.
Well, I always say time and money is so important, and no good having all the money in the world that you don't have the time, and also how to allocate your time. And we've spoken off air about clients who try and retire and they have nothing to do. Like end point, they've got the money, they sit on the stoop for 3 months, and then they've got no purpose in life. And often those people pass very young, after retirement. They're not, and often the people that have great lives ahead of them, they still have purpose in their retirement, and they allocate their time. They don't need they need to worry about money because they've done that part, their work in life. But they have the time to allocate to projects or things that they can have meaning for and to help other people, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because, funny enough, in the book, in the section on clarity, I actually referred to a study done by the University of California, Los Angeles, where they studied time, people's use of time. And you so often hear people talk about how I spend my time, and the word spend. And they talk about, if one had to reframe that, to say, how do you invest your time? And
Sure.
they make the point to what you're saying as well. They say that the more people plan their time into the future and think about how they're going to invest in time into the future, they end up being happier. So it doesn't just stop at an end point like
Yes.
retirement.
Yeah.
They've thought about what they want to invest their time in, almost to the end of their lives. Yeah.
Well, you hear of, I've seen a few of these YouTube videos of guys who decided at the age of coming out of university, that the most important thing to them was the financial freedom they could have as young as possible. So the idea of putting as much away as they could during their 20s and early 30s and investing in their future and their greatest asset, which is their time. And they got to the point now where they are financially free. They're coming up to 40 years old and no longer have to worry about money.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of clarity, I wish I had that at 20. If I could go back, the one thing I would change about my life is I would have massively invested in my future younger, knowing that I wouldn't have to ever worry about money when I got older, and then had the time to spend with my family whenever I wanted and never had to take on work I didn't want to do.
Yeah. And I think that's where, like, in our practice and us building on our philosophy of the 7 different relationships, and we try help you have clarity, because you need to see all of those different areas. Yes, financial independence is what you want to work towards, but have you protected yourself if your earnings stop because you get hurt by something?
Yes.
Are you saving? What are you spending on? Are you keeping for emergencies? And I really believe that the way we do it with our clients really helps to have that clarity, because it's not just one goal. You really have to be clear about everything in your life and your money.
Yeah. Because I think the one risk. I mean, I'm probably just envious of those guys who, But I think the one flip side to that, and I think I might have shared this at a previous podcast, was, the financial planner telling me that their wealthiest client is miserable and really struggling with life, because they had put all their energy into making the money, because they thought the money was going to make them happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's possibly one of the biggest myths that we all should be aware of, that money itself doesn't make you happy. Yes, it enables stuff, and I think it was, who was it, Zaza Gobo or somebody said, people say it's not all about money or something, but, tell them that when they have to go grocery shopping, that it is about, money is very important to us, but the risk we run if we don't have clarity about what we want from life is that we put all our energy into that, and then, as you say, what about the rest of your life? And how do you live, once you're financially comfortable, how do you get meaning from your life? And there's another study that I referred to in the book that was done by Harvard, or that is ongoing. It's an ongoing study on happiness. And it started in 1938. And they mainly focus on people sort of at retirement, sort of post-retirement, and looking at their quality of life. And they have found that the biggest issue that people struggle with is not having enough money. It's not having enough relationships. And that's what their advice is, if you want to have a happy retirement, invest in relationships now, And so it does talk to this, and that's why I use the term financial health in the title of the book, because for me, financial health is about a balance between your money and your life, and getting that balance right. And it's not easy, because we do get lots of messages like, actually, you've made it if you're financially independent at 40.
Yeah.
A friend of mine last week.
What did you give up for that?
Yeah, exactly. And a friend of mine last week literally dropped dead, getting his morning coffee.
It's a problem.
Yeah, but dropped dead from a heart attack at the age of 55. And he's just his kids are just gone to university, and it's just like now's the time to start enjoying yourself.
I agree. And actually, I did have a meeting earlier with a friend of mine, sort of a nice sit-down lunch, and he owns a marketing agency, and he's done incredibly well. And he was telling me that some of the best decisions he's made recently were to not take on big contracts. And I said, well, why? And he said, because I have enough now.
and I want to spend as much time with my parents before they pass.
Yeah, very good.
And
That's
you could
good.
see how happy it made him just saying that.
Yeah.
So I agree.
It's
Yeah.
amazing, yeah.
And I think that I don't know very many people that have a financial advisor that helps them with that. You know, yes, you generally think your financial advisor is there to help you make money. Like,
Of course.
it's not just about that.
Yeah.
It's about keeping it. It's about enjoying your life and about us knowing what it is that you actually want and where do you see yourself? How do you want to spend time with your
understanding
kids?
who your client is and helping them understand themselves. And then, as you say, bringing the clarity of it in. Well, this is what you will need in retirement, or not even retirement. This is what you need to have by this point in your life in order to fulfill what will make you happy, what your needs are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. That was awesome. And we can get on to the next C's in the next one.
Yeah.
Looking
That
forward
was
to it.
great insight, Rob. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Yeah,
The story
John.
about your dad, that was wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
it is a bit
Sounds
wild,
made
yeah.
up, eh?
It sounds like me, yeah.
I'll get the logbook for you.
And he went back into action after that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Pleasure.
Yeah, they were
Bye.
different those days,
Yeah.
Craig. They were a little different. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this podcast, would like to subscribe, please visit our website, www.growthfp.co.za. The information we have provided in this podcast is our personal opinion. For more detailed information, please discuss your financial situation with a financial planner.